I'm with Bob Whittaker this morning, who is the Ministry Team Leader at Auckland Bible Church in Green Lane in Auckland. So Bob, thanks very much for being willing to share this time to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on your church. And thanks too for letting me record this interview.
It's a pleasure, Bruce, I hope.
Good. So I'll go straight into my first question then. How would you describe your church family?
Well, it's about 200 regularly, quite a range of ages, but I'd say the top of the bell curve is probably families with parents in their late 30s. Yeah, so we've been going about 30 years, I think. Quite a lot of people are kind of white collar, sort of professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, fair amount of energy, I'd say. A great bunch.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So when we went into lockdown, and that's just over 5 weeks ago now, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, our kind of goal for the year as an eldership and as a church was choosing to connect with God, one another, and our neighbor. So that we kind of worked through a process of coming up with that focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so with COVID and lockdown, obviously when we had to go from online being an optional extra to online being the main thing. And that was quite a shift in gears. So that really was the challenge, is how do we do church virtually?
Mm-hmm. So knowing what we know now, as you've gone through this lockdown process, what have been the most important things for you to focus on with your church?
I think our initial concern was making sure that we stayed connected as a community. And so, everyone is Zoomed here, there, and everywhere. But that technology has been critical. And we started out by making the message and a welcome available on a YouTube channel. So we had to work out how to do the videoing and of people preaching roster. So we don't have a full-time pastor at this point in time. So that was another challenge. But we do have someone who's coordinating our teaching in the church. And so we had to get all of those people ready to function in an online setting, and also to make it a bit shorter and sharper, just because people's attention span is more difficult when you're sitting and watching a screen. So that was our initial challenge, was just getting the services online and engaging people on Zoom. And so we quite quickly settled on getting everyone in on Zoom on a Sunday morning at the normal service time of 10 o'clock. And people particularly enjoyed going into the break, the chat groups, which people have called breakdown groups, or, so where you could sit and just catch up, and meet people. So part of it too is you're suddenly meeting people you don't really know well. You've seen them, but they sit on the other side of the church, and now they're sitting in a chat group with you. And so it was a great opportunity to actually form some connections that didn't exist prior to the lockdown.
Mm.
So that was our initial thing, was getting the church connected. Obviously, from an eldership point of view, from the staff point of view, we also, started meeting more regularly on a weekly basis, just to touch base, how things going, what are the rules, how long is this going to carry on? So you're having to flex and adjust quite a bit.
Mm.
So if I think about our goal for the year, we've been able to do a pretty good job of encouraging people to choosing to connect with God, choosing to connect with each other. The challenging space, of course, is how do you engage your neighbor in the conversation around the gospel, or just spiritual just connection with them. When you can do a small amount of lean across the fence and say hi, but for the most part, we were going to be part of the Hope Project distribution of the Easter booklets, and our planned distribution was the 29th of March. So, so that hasn't happened. So it's those sort of frustrations of things we had intended to do and then set up that suddenly couldn't be done.
That's challenging. So it may be that New Zealand won't be able to return to 2019 normal within 12, 18 months. What impact do you think this will have on how you do church and how you understand the mission of your church?
Well, I think, this for all of us, I think this has been a reminder of a truth that we know, and that is church is not about buildings and programs, it's about people.
Good.
So, that we know that, but this has highlighted that reality, and actually an encouragement to realize that the mission doesn't change because of the challenging circumstances. So we still want to be about loving God, loving others, reaching out, engaging with people. But I think the big learning curve is, well, how can we do that effectively? And I guess not having a new normal means we've got to think through our assumptions about how we go about the mission. It doesn't change, it's just how we do it has to flex and change. And so I think there's tremendous potential to make new ways when we're able to have some face-to-face connection, but not in the way that we had pre. And so I think that it's an exciting opportunity, but there's a frustration in just not being able to do things the way you normally do them. And so you've got to deal with that. You've got to just change your expectations. I think it's an opportunity to, depending on what happens under level 2 and obviously then down to level 1, it's going to mean that small groups within a kind of home groups, that sort of connection is going to be possible far easier than the bigger gatherings. And so I think it's going to really stimulate and encourage people connecting within a home group structure. And our church has had sort of ups and downs of the numbers in the church involved in a small group. And I think this is going to provide a motivation and a hunger to be part of a group. So I expect we'll see the numbers in the church engaged in a home group will go up. At least I hope that'll be the reality. And so that's exciting because it means we're going to be stimulating connections and conversations at a level that you can really be ministered to. You can do a certain amount from the pulpit and in the Sunday service, but we all know that is important, but that is by no means the whole story. And so, I think they're challenging and exciting days, but for me, the challenge is how do we connect with our neighbor? How do we engage in gospel conversations with those around us?
Yeah.
So our church is not just about us, but it's about us engaging with the world and the places where God has placed us.
Excellent. So, Bob, listening to your answers, would it be fair to say that you have hope for the future?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always hope. we know how the story ends, huh?
That's right.
Jesus is he's at work. He's at work in this world, and we are participants in his ministry in this world. And so, I'm hopeful because people need Jesus, and we have the wonder of being able to hold him out and point to him. It's just we need to flex with how we go about that. But God is still at work, and maybe it makes us rely more on God and his Spirit at work and less on our programs and the way we've done things that are going to get shaken up. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Oh, that's excellent. Look, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your hearts at this time. I just want to bless you with the work that you're doing in your church and the work that your church is doing in your community as you look to reach your neighbors and be in touch with God and each other. So bless you and thank you. And that's it for now.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good to chat, Bruce. Bye-bye then.